The modes are essential building blocks for understanding music and for learning to fluently navigate the guitar fretboard. In this video, we're going to talk briefly about where the modes come from and how they relate to each other and to the pentatonic scale. And I'll explain how something called brightness ordering is a useful way to understand the modes. All of the modes come from the major scale, so we'll start with a C major scale built on the first fret of the B string, which is a C note. A major scale consists of a specific sequence of whole step and half step intervals. A whole step is a 2-fret distance, and a half step is a 1-fret distance. From the root note, or first scale degree C, we move up 2 frets or a whole step to the second scale degree D. Up 2 more frets to E, just 1 fret from there to F, 2 frets to G, 2 to A, 2 more to B, and 1 more brings us back to C where the cycle repeats. Now let's forget about the fretboard for a moment and just look at the major scale as a sequence of intervals along one string. We could take this pattern and start it on any note anywhere on the fretboard, and it would create a major scale. The half steps will always be between the 3rd and 4th scale degrees and the 7th and 1st scale degrees. We can keep this pattern going indefinitely, stretching up into higher octaves or down into lower. A major scale mode is any 7-note subsequence of this pattern, and there are 7 possible subsequences and hence 7 modes. Each one has its own unique sequence of intervals, and each one fills exactly 1 octave. They all have Greek names for historical reasons. If we start and end on the 1st scale degree of the major scale, we get the Aeolian mode, which is just another name for the major scale. If, however, we were to shift over and start and end on the 2nd scale degree of the major scale, we'd have the Dorian mode. Starting on the 3rd scale degree yields the Phrygian mode. The 4th gives us Lydian. The 5th, Mixolydian. If we start on the 6th scale degree, we get the Aeolian mode, which is also known as the natural minor scale. And finally, the Locrian mode starts on the 7th scale degree. If we shift over once more, we're right back where we started with the major scale. The way we just heard these modes, they all shared the exact same notes, but there's a better way to hear their characteristic sounds that we'll get into in a minute. Each of these scale modes has a signature sound that's due to the intervals between the first note and each of the other notes of the scale. The more of these notes that are flattened relative to the same note in the major scale, the darker the mode will sound. The Locrian mode is the darkest, and the Lydian mode is the brightest. We have them arranged here in order of the major scale degree that they start on, but it can also be useful to rearrange them by how bright or dark they sound, and when we do that, a different pattern emerges. Now the notes here are still labeled in terms of the scale degree of the underlying major scale, but let's label them with intervals instead. Any sharps and flats shown here are relative to the notes of the Ionian mode or major scale, which has no sharps or flats. It turns out that in this ordering, each mode differs from the next by changing just one note by 1 semitone. The brightest mode is Lydian, and it differs from the major scale by raising the 4th note by 1 semitone. We get the Mixolydian mode from the major scale by flattening the 7th scale degree. These 3 modes are called major modes because they all have a major third as their 3rd note. From the Mixolydian mode, if we flatten the 3rd note, we get the Dorian mode. If we flatten the 6th note of the Dorian mode, we get the Aeolian mode, or natural minor scale. If we flatten the 2nd note of the Aeolian mode, we get the Phrygian mode. And these 3 modes are called minor modes because they all have a minor third as their 3rd note. The 7th and final mode is formed by flattening the 5th of the Phrygian mode. This gives us the Locrian mode, which is called a diminished scale because it has both a flat 3rd and a diminished 5th. Let's listen to the sound of each mode when played against an appropriate 7th chord backdrop. In all of these, the reference chord is formed by simultaneously playing the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th notes of the mode. In these examples, each scale will start on a C note. We'll start with C Lydian. C Ionian or major scale. C Mixolydian, C Dorian, C Aeolian or natural minor scale, C Phrygian, and finally C Locrian. The major modes have 5 notes in common, and it turns out that those notes make up the major pentatonic scale. This scale contains a natural 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th. The 7th note in these modes can either be natural or flattened, and the 4th note can either be natural or raised. Similarly, the minor modes have 5 notes in common, and those notes make up the minor pentatonic scale. This scale has a flattened 3rd and 7th, and a natural 4th and 5th. The 2nd and 6th can either be natural or flattened. We can use these built-in pentatonic scales as a massive shortcut for learning to play the modes on guitar by exploiting simple geometric patterns. If you're interested in that, check out the video linked above. Another way of looking at all of this is that there are 3 major and 3 minor pentatonic scales sitting inside the interval sequence that makes up the major scale. Here's the C major scale across the entire fretboard. Here are the notes of the scale labeled on the E string, starting with A, so that if you played them in that order, you'd be playing the natural minor scale or Aeolian mode. For simplicity, I'm going to illustrate the related pentatonic scales using the familiar Form 1 fingering pattern, but this also works for all of the other pentatonic fingerings. Here's the Form 1 C major pentatonic scale starting at the 5th fret. The root is the C note at the 8th fret of the E string. If we move that shape up to the 10th fret, we have the D minor pentatonic scale. It's important to note that although the major and minor pentatonic scales have the exact same fingerings, the roots are in different locations. If this is at all confusing, check out my video on the pentatonic scale linked above. 2 frets up from there, we have the E minor pentatonic scale. Back down 2 frets, we recontextualize the notes of the D minor pentatonic as F major pentatonic. Same notes, different tonal center or root. Back up 2 frets again, we have the G major pentatonic scale. And then finally, back at the familiar 5th fret, we have the A minor pentatonic scale. So in summary, there are major pentatonic scales that begin on the 1st, 4th, and 5th scale degrees of the major scale. And there are minor pentatonic scales that begin on the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th. This leads to some cool tricks for faking the modes by using only pentatonic scales, and also for moving fingering sequences around in clever ways. But those are going to be topics for future videos. If you'd like a downloadable PDF cheat sheet with all of the concepts you just saw, check out the link in the video description. And if this video helped you on your journey, please leave a comment, hit the like button, and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. And sign up for the Fret Science mailing list at fretscience.com.